So moving on to sort of the wider value chain, we've spoken about how software-defined services are going to bring in a new type of relationship for OEMs to have with their customers. And that's obviously going to require OEMs to manage customer data and customer relationships better than they have in the past. You know, how effective do you think they're going to be at doing that? How effectively are they doing that today?
Well, number one, of course, is the protection of privacy. So that's a hot topic. So it existed again, but it becomes even more acute right now. So that's one element. The other piece regarding the managing the customer data, etc., is that there is a lot of push from different directions to say that this data should be available. So typically, let me explain. Typically, the automakers considered that this data was theirs in a way. So, theirs or shared with the end customer, of course, right? But you understand what I mean. They are the one processing it, right?
Yeah.
But they have with the customer, because, well, in particular in Europe with GDPR, of course, it's mandatory now. It's even simpler in a way. But basically, the only ones that have access to that data are the automakers themselves, according to with the guidelines of GDPR in Europe or equivalents, and the end customers. But now there are the third parties that says that data should be available. So there are actually a number of companies lobbying the authorities, so European Commission, for example, but not only, to say this data should be open, that should be an open ecosystem, and we should be able to innovate on top of this data. So this is where, and you mentioned earlier, and I did not react. You mentioned regulations, right? So I expect to see more and more regulations, specifically around the data, customer data associated with their vehicles or the mobility, right? So same thing, difficult to predict where we are going. I can dream and give you what I think could happen, but what is for sure is that we will see a number of movements that potentially also will be disruptive.
So in looking at the manufacturing operations, we've spoken about the sort of the end product end. How mature do you think OEMs are in terms of leveraging software in those operations, particularly things like we've spoken about AI to improve operations and streamline?
Actually, already quite a lot.
Yeah.
And so as far as I know, I'm not sure I'm right, but as far as I know, it was extremely strong around PRA. So what is it? Process robotic automation.
Yeah.
Or RPA, sorry, RPA, robotic process innovation. Sorry, wrong order. RPA. So there were a number of RPAs everywhere. I saw that trend maybe 10 years ago now. Now there are RPAs everywhere. I mentioned the picking right in the warehouse. I'm not sure it has been completely implemented just yet, but I know that there are some projects around that. Another one that actually Capgemini helped develop is for the quality process at the end of a line, at the end of a plant. So when a vehicle is built in a plant, at the end of the line there is an important process which is quality control. Right? What does this mean? You have 1-2 people going around the car, checking specifically a few things to check that the car was built at the right level of quality, right? That the paint is nice, that there is no gap. I mean, all of that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Honestly, for, I don't know actually the numbers, but for an enormous majority of the case, there is not a problem, right? So the guy is going around and says, fine.
Yeah.
But this is where the efficiency comes. These are, I mean, if it's just to check that for the majority of the time it's okay, it's sorry to say that way, it's pretty expensive and pretty inefficient. Yeah. We would prefer to actually focus the humans who are actually well trained, etc. We would prefer them to act when there is a problem. So in this case, the system that was put in place was based on machine learning, was to take pictures, basically, of the car that comes at the end of the line, and have an algorithm based on machine learning, artificial intelligence, to basically check that that it's okay. And actually, this is something that works well with machine learning, right? So if there is a doubt, then you call the human. Then
Yes.
and so you focus your energy and your talent where you have actually the added value, right? Where there is complexity, where actually the all the training of these people can be put to the best use. Yeah, you understand
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
point?
Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah. Focus people where you can.
That's an example. That's an
Automate. Yeah. Yeah. The automating what's possible. So with this transformation happening, obviously Carrier is one example of how the businesses are doing it. But are you seeing OEMs increasingly partnering with technology providers? Is that accelerating?
Yeah, yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It is. It's happening. I mean, you see. I mean, without taking too many details, I need to make sure that they are public. So
Yes, we can edit that.
I'll take one in particular. But yeah, we see the automakers yeah partnering with technology companies. So if I take actually same thing from my previous employer. So Stellantis relatively recently announced an alliance with Foxconn. Foxconn, who is known to be the company who building the iPhones, for example, right? It's an electronic consumer electronic assembling company that wants to invest in specifically in digital cockpits. So the two have announced an alliance. There are a few automakers that have alliances with Waymo, for example. Waymo is the assisted driving autonomous vehicle company in Alphabet, so Google, right? By the way, I can say Audi, so Volkswagen, has a joint venture with Capgemini, so-called XL2, for SAP and cloud, right? So yeah, these alliances are happening, and I believe that they are accelerating. That's the trend, definitively. There is another factor, if I may, which is that the OEM, of course, are still at the center of the game of this industry, but they are also disrupted by new players that actually bring, of course, services, but also products in the industry. You've heard about the Google vehicle, so which being what created Waymo in the first place. Even if I believe Google decided to not finally build by themselves a car, but that was the initial plan. We heard the same from Apple. We heard the same from Amazon. We heard the same from Sony. There are a lot of players coming in this space, right? Saying, "Oh, we have a big asset of technology we can build a car around." So, echoing what I said earlier. So
Yes.
they are potentially companies that can create alliances with the traditional OEMs, but they can also be the disruptors.
Yes.
Tesla is a disruptor.